What's going on, guys? It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis on NIO. I'm here to share with you my thoughts as to where I see it going into next week. If you missed my last couple of weeks' videos, definitely check it out. I'm very, very bullish on NIO. And for this week, I still am. And I'm going to talk about in this video why the next 2 weeks are going to be extremely critical for NIO to start making its big move. And we may have actually started to see something happen, as you can see in the volume, that things are starting to make a move. You can see just by looking at the volume, things are about to pick off actually. So we might actually be in for an explosive next week, possibly next 2 weeks. And I'm here to share my thoughts as to why that is. If you're new here, we drop one of these videos once per week. This video is coming out a little bit later than normal. It's 1 o'clock p.m. my time. Normally I try and get it up between 9 and 10 a.m. So I apologize, bit of a busy morning for me. And again, if you're new here, please do your own if you're making a big financial decision, please do your own due diligence. And definitely if you're making a big financial decision, do your own research. I'm just a guy who likes to stock. This is just my opinion. It's been wrong in the past before. I'm here to just share where I see NIO going into next week. Having said that, we don't just talk about NIO, we talk about BABA. So we will dive deep, not dive deep, but we will touch on BABA. We will look at the Hang Seng Index and we will look at the Dixie. Of course, if I had more time, I would dive deeper into each and every single one of these indices and stocks, but that would just make my video way too long. Having said that, let's dive right in here. We're going to talk about the 24-hour time frame on the velocity. I'm going to talk about something that we talked about last week, and that's essentially the 200-day moving average, which is the yellow line. And again, we all, I think most of you guys know this by now. It made a lower low back in February, and we got a small rally. It made a lower low back in April, and I wouldn't call that a small rally, but it was a lower high, and it wasn't the run. And here we are again. The question is, and I'm pointing towards the blank space of where, if I were to draw out a line here, and I'm going to use orange so you guys can see that color. Will this make a low, will this curl up in time and make a higher low? That's why there's a 2-week time frame I'm given this. If NIO trades sideways, just like we saw it do back in January and February, if it does something like this, it's going to actually give us a lower low on that 200-day moving average. And when it gives us a lower low on that 200-day moving average, and it's not a guarantee, but I don't feel confident. Again, I'm not going to feel really good about that, especially if NIO starts trading sideways and we start seeing BABA start making a big move and NIO's not participating in that rally. I'm going to start getting concerned. I'm going to talk about 2 different scenarios here. They're both good for the bulls, but it's important to kind of understand as to how you can prepare for that. So I'm going to actually talk about 2 scenarios right off the hop here. A couple things that I'm still not too happy about with NIO is there's some good things, but I'm going to talk about the bad things. The one thing that I don't really like here right now is the fact that our velocity made a lower low here, and the price didn't follow suit. The last 2 weeks I was saying, okay, we might get it take below 331. We haven't did that. Actually, buyers came in right at 334. Now, what I think might actually happen if everything plays according to plan, we get another move down. It takes below 334, and then it runs. We're absolute, and then it's smoking. It's going crazy. And that would look like this on the velocity, a higher low. Breaks above our 200-day moving average. I'm going to have to draw that out so you guys can see that. We're going to use orange just to differentiate that. Breaks above it. Sorry, and it curls up. We got to use the eraser on that because this is messy. I want you guys to actually see what I am expecting. From the time, and that's why I think it's 2 weeks. The 2 weeks windows is very important. It's very important right now for NIO and for me, in my opinion, and for my analysis to kind of be for my confidence level, it's very important to me for me to see that it can actually build a higher low. If it can do that, I think we're in for a possible 100 to 150% rally on NIO. Why? Why so dramatic and why so big? The last time we had a higher low form was last year. This was literally the last time we built out a higher low, which was right over here, right before we had that explosive move. And that is something that I believe is in the works still, but it's not a guaranteed, because if NIO does this crazy sideways price action that we saw back in January. So most of the bulls who were trading NIO back during this time, and maybe you weren't and you're new here, but just know from January all the way through basically almost the end of February, it just traded sideways. If it does something like that, and notice when it trades sideways, it had an opportunity. It had that opportunity to make a potential higher low on that velocity. It didn't do it because it traded sideways way too long. It didn't make that move so long. And when it made that lower low, that kind of gave us a clue like, you got to be a little cautious here. Over here, it made a lower low despite making that big bounce, and now it's kind of on the downtrend. So that is why. That's my thesis. I hope you guys understand. This is what I'm looking for. And the way I would like to see that is I would like to first start seeing that by our velocity making a higher low. And how that would look like on the price is it would come down, it would take below 334, and then it would swoosh up. And then you get those big moves. And it just explodes. It's just like a volcano and it melts up, actually. That's what I want to see. Now, if we get one of these moves, guys, because this is actually a second scenario. And in 2 weeks, if we get sideways price action, and I'll change this to orange. So, I mean, I can change it to yellow, but then it looks identical to my indicator. So I'm going to do orange so you can see what I drew. If it makes a lower low, it's not the end of the world, but how that changes things and how you should perceive the next rally. Hang on, let's do this. Change it to white. How you should perceive the next rally is you're going to get either one of these moves. You're going to get either one of those moves. What does one of those moves look like? Like, let me be more specific, okay? So we're going to go ahead. We're going to switch just for the sake of, actually, we are already in logarithmic view. So we're going to open up our Fibonacci, and I'm going to show you something here. It's actually 1439, and it's 116. I remember this. Just to show you guys, you can see the H stands for the high of the candle, and I'm looking like right up here. I'm just teaching you guys this. You see how it's 1439, and if I come down to the bottom of that candle, we're 116. So this is the historic Fibonacci from IPO. Notice it brings us to 409. Notice where it's kind of been a very sticky area, and so was that 0.618, which was 550, which is exactly where our last run rally topped out at. And if we get one of these moves where our 200-day moving average over the next 2 weeks, NIO goes sideways, which I'm not expecting, but if it does do that, I'm painting this scenario for you. If it does do that, it's not like the end of the world. You'll still get that move, but it would look something more along the lines of like this. It'd be like, it would just drop flat. It would come back. Maybe you would get 550 and coming back down to either test 304 to build the base, potentially come down to $2.10. Okay, so this is why the next 2 weeks are really important. There's absolutely zero bulls who want this. Nobody should want this, especially if you're in this play, especially if you're kind of in this move. It's important to know this because as we get to these important levels, you got to factor some of these things in, right? $5 versus $2. Nobody wants to be that investor that has their shares lose 60% value. But I'm presenting this in advance. It may not be till next month, but this is something that you want to kind of keep in mind because I have that in mind. It's also what happened here. And it's also what happened here. Notice where I'm pointing my arrows here. Now, here's where I think actually what's going to happen. Given that if we get our higher low, and that's still in the works, notice I drew that. If we get our higher low, and I'm just going to draw that orange so you guys can see that. And if we get our higher low and it starts moving higher, why is this not white? I'll make that white. If it does this, by the way, what I would imagine what that would look like is a completely shatters 409, turns that into support. Completely shatters 550, turns that into support. And your last leg, we're getting up to 840, the 0.786, which you could see was a big level. That was a big level here. That's the big move. That's the big move. Now, it wouldn't be it, but it would mark the time and the time to kind of, give us like that potential pullback before it decides to kind of give us that big retest here of 14. That's something that it's a possibility. Again, I can't paint that picture. We got to cross that bridge when we get there, but it is a possibility. And the next 2 weeks are very, very important. And again, I mentioned it before, but I can't stress enough why the next 2 weeks are important, because if in 2 weeks the price just goes sideways, just like we saw back in January and February, and even you can argue December, if it does this and it doesn't give us that move and we're just going sideways, it's dancing and it's making everybody go crazy, like what the hell is it doing? Our 200-day moving average is going to make a lower low, and a lower low is basically, I think it's going to limit that run into either 409, most likely 550. Look at this headline: Goldman Sachs, NIO could climb 33%. How much did the last rally run? 33%. So there's some like hints that maybe that might be in the case, but we won't know. Now, here's actually some things that kind of that are going to be good for the bulls. If you look at the last hour, and even on the 24-hour time frame, something's happening on the velocity, or not the velocity, pardon me, the volume. I'm zooming in here so you guys can see. You can see here, it's breaking above the moving average. The velocity's picking up. Low volume, and all of a sudden volume's coming in here. And even if you looked on the minute, you can see things got kind of, it looks like the party's starting to get started here. Barcoding, all of a sudden just complete vertical. And it's unlike this move, which was more slow and natural. This was like straight, like oomph with volume. So that's exciting. I think NIO can actually run as soon as Monday. I think Monday could be the start of it getting above 409. Let's see if I can get that fib. There it is. I think it could be the start of potentially seeing it get above 409, or as soon as the following week. From my experience in trading, and from when I see a lower low, and I'm gonna when I see it make this lower low right here, oftentimes before things kick off is it needs to make a higher low. If it makes a higher low and takes the lows out at not even 332, takes the lows out at 334. I mean, it's a couple cents. Basically that level. If it tags right below there, that might be your buy signal. If you really want to get into this rocket, like I suspect it might make that move. I would love to see that early next week, so it's not wasting so much time trading sideways. You get that big drop, maybe even a gap down, and it goes. Maybe it just does this, and it just comes straight up to 409. We break 409 again, up into the golden pocket, pull back, and we get that big. I would love to see that. That is what I want to see. I want to see a big move on NIO. We all do. And we just got to wait. Now, NIO's just one piece of the puzzle. There's other pieces. I did this entire analysis just looking at the 24-hour time frame. I can actually dive in and I can look at the 4 hours, and I'll do that real quick here. You look at the 4 hours, and you could see that it's forming. That was your lower low on the 200-day moving average. And you can, I mean, if you round that out, this is your higher low. And if you want to even kind of including your analysis, the 2 trend lines breaking, that's your 1. You could argue that was 2. Maybe this is 2, but it's getting ready to crack and break. That's when things are ready to go. And you can even almost see the rounding out. The rounding out, I like it. I like NIO here. Don't let any bears tell you that, oh, I'm shorting it. And they always say that. I'm a short it. It's an easy short. They said that right over here. Do you know how many bears over here were like, yeah, I'm shorting it to the ground? In fact, there were some bulls that were like, I'm out. I'm not sitting in it any longer. I can't sit in it any longer. Only for it to rally back up to 550. 30%. I mean, that ain't nothing. That's pretty significant. So don't let no bears tell you that, oh yeah, it's setting up for a big move down. No. At best, you might see it like come and sweep the lows here right at 330. You will still get a short rally into that 409, potentially 550. Before, if the bears are right and they're saying like, oh, it's going to go to 2, it's going to go to 1, it'll do this first. You'll get this first, okay? That will happen first. I believe that. Now, again, I could be wrong, but that's what I believe. Now, that's a worst case scenario, which, to be honest, doesn't look too shabby. Worst case scenario. On a good case scenario, where things really go, we're talking clean 409, you clear 550, and off to break in this high here, which is right at 780, and we're getting into 8, which from, I think I still have it. That's right there, 840. There it is. BABA. Change that to regular real quick. BABA it's broken out. It's forming a higher low here. BABA looks good. BABA looks so good. It looks messy here. You can see some arrows here. I was pointing to the lower low on the 200-day moving average. I'm pointing to the fact that it's forming a higher low. The velocity made a higher low here. And once it hasn't made that move, this is the dip to buy for BABA. And I think BABA is also going to move. Now, you should point that both times BABA ran, it made almost like a straight vertical move. A straight vertical move up, vertical move up, vertical move up. And I'm not expecting nothing less from BABA. And I do believe it has the potential from going all the way from 114 into 180. I do think that. Hang Seng Index. Look at it. Look at that. You can see it most recently gave you a breakout. Where did it give you a breakout? It gave us a breakout right over here. That's a breakout right over here. It's going to give us that pullback. And we're going to get into testing 2,500 and above 2,500. If it blasts above that, we're talking 28. We're in 2,800 field. Like, that's the way to do it. Here's something interesting. Look at the 4-hour time frame for a second on Hang Seng Index. And I want you to pay attention, not to the chart, because that's kind of harder to notice, but pay attention primarily to this. We're going to jump back to BABA. There's your BABA. And look at NIO. It's kind of a mess. I'm actually going to erase the drawings. So there's NIO. There's BABA. Take a look at both of them. Very, very similar. And then again, going to the Dixie here. Dixie's obviously making new lows here. On the 24-hour time frame, it looks to just be like building this base. It is making lower lows, but I don't think we've seen that move yet. So Dixie, even though it's making lower lows, I mean, yeah, maybe if it wants, is it ready to explode lower to 91? I don't think so. I think it's making this base like it did here where it made lower lows, a little bit more volatile, and we will see that big move back up. So that sums up my analysis, you guys. If you guys, I don't want to talk too much longer, but I am very bullish. I'm giving it a 2-week window for NIO to start moving way higher. And if NIO starts moving, it can run as soon as Monday. Why do I say that? Is Friday was something was happening here on Friday. I don't think that was random. Somebody's like preloading here on Wednesday there, right at noon. All this volume came flooding in there actually. So something's happening. The timing's there. And from a timings perspective, and we talked about this previously, how long has it been since the top of that peak? It's been 107 days. It's about time, you guys. So I'm giving NIO 2 weeks. If we get nothing but sideways price action from this all the way out to here, and it just drags out sideways, it basically takes like that $7 and $8 price targets off the table, and you're only looking at like 550 and potentially as low as 409. I'll keep you guys posted next week with my next week's video. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a thumbs up. And if you want to get updates and notifications, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment sections below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a wonderful day. Cheers.